Yeah, so I just before I touch on that, I do want to comment on your tale of two cities with Hut and Hive, and just say that basically all of Hut's market cap is its hodl. But if we take out hodl, so minus the hodl from their market cap, Hive is roughly half the value of Hut for its non-hodl portion. And Hive's performance and exahash is more than half of Hut. So right there, there's clearly Hut is being valued higher, even though Hut has basically much less to offer. They've got worse machines, worse efficiency, and they've got not even that much more exahash. If I recall correctly, they have 6.5 exahash. Hive is, I believe, hit 5.5. So with that in mind, Hive is basically as large or almost as large as Hut in terms of its mining. And then in addition, they have a much lower valuation and they're way more efficient. So it's like, you know, if Hut had done basically anything to to figure out the situation, they could have easily been one of the top miners, but instead they've kind of just, sat around and done a whole heck of a lot of nothing. And even if Hive hasn't been growing its exahash, from what I can tell, they've been increasing the efficiency pretty diligently. So they have been replacing old machines as they go. So even if their exahash is not doing like a 3x like a bit farms, for example, their efficiency is continually staying high or moving below or moving down. So I think that that's kind of a good comparison between the two.
And also, actually, you just reminded me of one point. Sorry to cut you off, but today is June 20th that we're recording this episode on, and HUD 8 has still not put out their May update. So, just a question to butt in: do you think that this is a red flag, Tristan?
I would not be happy if I was still a HUD shareholder. I would be pretty displeased with that, because Bitfarms releases theirs on June 1st, if I'm not mistaken, like the first business day following the following month. You're telling me you guys can't produce a report, within 20 days? I think it's just sounds like a red flag, or alternatively, they're shutting down, they're whirling out of the Bitcoin mining space. And maybe that's just what is going on, is just that they're trying to get out of the space gradually and move into that AI area. Either way, I would not be happy if I were a HUT 8 shareholder, particularly since I would be buying it with the perspective that it is a Bitcoin miner. I would not be buying it as an AI play specifically. I think that, and I think with regards to the AI kind of plays, there's a lot of people in the space, and it's a very new space. So I don't think that I would risk it to buy a AI company like on its own, right? Like I think that having that revenue as an additional piece to Bitcoin mining is like perfectly fine to help with the crypto winters. But again, for that, I would not be buying Iris Energy if all Iris Energy did was AI stuff. And if Hut is heading in down that path, Hut will be disappearing from my mind as an investment opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of already disappeared for me, at least. It's like you're dead to me already. Anyways, Dom, do you have anything you want to add to this story? What do you think of HUD, and how do you think of this tale of two cities between Hive and HUD?
Oh no, I mean, from what I'm hearing, I totally agree with you guys too as well. I think, all in all, I think HUD 8 has gone off the beaten path, and they're not like what they necessarily used to be, and their acquisitions and etc. are a little funky. So like, I think overall for that, I'm also out as well. I don't think this is something I want to invest in necessarily, and I'm okay with like Hive for now and Bitfarms as like plays necessarily. So I think I agree with you guys too.
Oh yeah. I also just wanted to say one thing, because I remember from what Dom was saying with regards to CleanSpark. Like I think that CleanSpark will do well from here because I think that it's got a lot of respect as a large cap miner now. So I think that there is room for CleanSpark to do some multiples. I just don't think that I don't think there's as much room as like Hive, for example. Like I wouldn't be surprised if I turned around and CleanSpark had hit like um $80 USD. I wouldn't be that surprised. I'd be like, nice. But like I wouldn't be that surprised. Whereas if Hive were to hit like much higher numbers, right? Like even 40 Canadian dollars, I wouldn't be like, wow, this is so surprising to me, right? I would be more I wouldn't necessarily say I would be expecting it, but I'd be like, this is less of a jump, right? Because for CleanSpark to hit $80, an additional like $15 billion need to be cooked into the Bitcoin miner pot. Whereas for Hive to hit $40, only about $4.5 billion would need to come into the pot. Honestly, that's a substantially lower amount of money. So, and CleanSpark already had that big run up where it basically did a 4x and it's basically sat there since then. So, a lot of these other miners have had their growth happen already. And I think that kind of will bring me back to what Andy was asking, which is why the Bitcoin miners were kind of going down in March and are now catching up and outperforming Bitcoin right now. And I think that there's two big reasons for that. So I think that basically what happened in March was everyone had a lot of FUD and fear with the halving. So when the halving was coming up and the halving was occurring, everyone was scared about miners because they're about to lose 50% of their revenue, right? So everyone was afraid to be in miners. Why be in miners when you could be in Bitcoin? So a lot of money that was in miners would have moved to Bitcoin just in general because it is an alternative investment to the miners, And then after the halving, I think that's when, and not immediately after the halving, but like after the halving, Bitcoin didn't move as much because the halving doesn't actually do as much to Bitcoin comparatively because it just reduces the amount of supply that's being created, which doesn't have an immediate effect because it's not like we're necessarily using every single Bitcoin immediately upon its creation. It's not like there's always an immediate buy order, right? So like exchanges, for example, will have a substantial amount of Bitcoin that they will be trading between the different people, right? Before they have to buy additional Bitcoin on the open market to, supply to the people who are buying on their platform. So in that regard, the Bitcoin itself didn't have as much room to run around because there wasn't anything fundamentally changing with Bitcoin at that time. It's a lagged effect. It takes time for that supply deficit to kick in. That's caused by the reduction in the mining output. And so from that perspective, the miners, they kind of had, I think, the revelation. I think investors kind of had the revelation of, oh, the sky hasn't actually fallen on the miners. They haven't gone bankrupt. They're still mining a decent amount of Bitcoin. They're still doing relatively well. And most of them are still profitable, at least the larger efficient ones. And so, okay, maybe I should buy the miners instead of Bitcoin itself. And Bitcoin, because it's not going up as much anymore, now is more of the stagnant item. And so I think we basically saw a situation where Bitcoin rose, nothing crazy there, but the miners fell, but they fell past their fair value. And in my perspective, maybe I have their fair value a little higher than other people, but either way, they fell beyond the point of where they would be fairly valued. And that was kind of what happened in the March region, where they were cheaper, or maybe not March, maybe more like April, May, where they were cheaper. And then a lot of them have seen a large growth. And that's a result of, I think, people realizing that there is a lot of potential in these Bitcoin miners. And there's an arbitrage opportunity where the value of the Bitcoin miner is currently under the value that it should be for a fair assessment. In which case, if you buy here, you will now get this amount of space that you've gained, right? So, for example, with Iris, if you bought at $5 and now it's gone up to $13 or whatever it is now, you would have gained 160%, 150% from doing that. And that is not a movement of Iris becoming worth like 1.5 times, or no, sorry, like a 2.5x. It's more so that Iris was not worth as little as this, but it is worth the higher band. So it moved up to where it was supposed to be. So if you could see that it was undervalued from where it was supposed to be, you could take that kind of opportunity gain. And I think that that's kind of what happened, was that a lot of people were investing into it. And then when more of the larger market clued in, we now have this scenario where the people are looking forward at all this growth that the miners are projecting, and realizing that there's a lot of potential here. And then they're investing in them with a forward focus, as well as bringing that value up to where the miners should be actually valued at. So I think that's kind of what I'm thinking. And it's kind of like it's a bit of a unique scenario, because most things don't have like this halving thing where it affects one side of the asset area, but doesn't affect the other side. So it affected the miners and not the Bitcoin itself immediately. So it's a bit of a weird scenario.
Yeah, I mean, not financial advice, but if you're not paying attention to this Bitcoin mining space, then I think you're missing out, because literally we were just talking about CleanSpark and we're just casually tossing out like a $75 or $80 price target, which I think is very realistic if you actually look into like what it can achieve, like considering what Bitcoin is expected to do in this bull run. And if you look at like, $75, $80 price target, that's like 4 or 5x where the price of the stock is now, right? So like a 4 to 5x is like tame compared to in IR standard, because like we're looking at other miners that are in our opinion undervalued, that could potentially do more than that. So again, like I could be wrong, right? A lot of this could not work out maybe, but I think it will. And I think that this Bitcoin mining space is going to make a lot of people rich, including us who are shareholders. And yeah, Tristan, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say that, I think that some people might be looking at the number of multiples we're giving and be like, that's crazy. But I think that we also have to remember that a lot of these companies that we're referring to, like Bitfarms and Iron, for example, they are multiplying the size of their business by like multiple times, right? So if Bitfarms goes from a 6x exahash to a 21 exahash, that is like a 300%. That's a huge increase in their profitability and their everything, and the amount of money they're making. This is a substantial increase in that on that front. So even not even taking into account, like if Bitcoin stays at its current price, you should see a substantial return from that growth in the company itself. Like the company is getting larger, they're getting more revenue. They should, by definition, increase in value. And this is not financial advice. This is just kind of what I'm thinking. So like the multiples are not as crazy to me as they might sound at a glance. And again, we haven't had Bitcoin move at all, so it's basically been stagnant at like the 60 to 72-ish $1,000 USD mark. So if it starts running, it'll be a different scenario.